Welcome to the WeBUS Podcast, you guys. I'm Wes Piatt, and I'm here with my friend Sean. Sean, welcome to the WeBUS Podcast. So stoked to have you, brother. Thank you for coming on, number one. And number two, let's get a lay of the land. Who is Sean, and where are you from, sir?
I am Sean Fulford. I am from Brookfield, Wisconsin, originally from Montreal, Canada. I live here with my wife and two kids. Well, one kid, I guess, technically still. My son is a sophomore at college, and my daughter is a senior in high school, so soon to be off to college.
Awesome. You and Bijan are the reasons why we can call ourselves WeBUS INT International.
Ooh, hey.
Coming from over the border and and into America, we've got some over the border, some Canadian blood going on, and then we also have a friend that's from England as well, who lives here in the States now too. So,
Nice.
how'd you find WeBUS, Sean? What brought you to the dad group?
So Jeremy Williams and I are really good friends. We both coach at CrossFit Funky, the gym that I'm part owner of. And we've known each other for going on 10 years now. So he was talking about the WeBUS crew, and about, when was that? Probably 3 years ago, we were at the CrossFit Games together, and we were talking about it. And I was like, hey, is this like something I can join, or is it like just for dudes with younger kids, or what? And he's like, no, get in there. So it's been I think about 3 years now that I've been part of the group.
I was just about to say, man, it's nuts how fast 3 years goes.
Yeah,
and,
man.
I'm sure you're feeling that too. Like, so you're one of the older individuals that we have in the group when it comes to experience, when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to time under tension as a dad. You've got it. And I got to say, I know I've reaped the rewards of all of your experiences that you've shared with us. And you've got kids in college now, and in Iowa State. Like, how cool. You've done it. You've sent your kids off and you've done the thing. I got to know, and I was talking with Switch about this the other day, one of our other members. Are you getting anything out of this, man? Because I know I'm getting a lot out of watching you, but we don't have many of the people that have sent their kids off to college just yet. We've got a lot of the guys that are in the brand new stages, or the toddler, or the young kid stages. But I got to know, like, what are you getting to this group when you're on it,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I get is, it's a great way for me to kind of look back at all the things that I've done with my kids. And, you get to watch all you guys with the younger kids and what you're going through. And there's such a broad range of ages, right? So luckily, good, bad, or indifferent, I've been through it, right? So it's cool to kind of to watch and be able to share my experiences of what for our family worked, what didn't work, kind of where we were at different stages, and then also kind of reflect on the decisions that we made throughout that time, right? Like, when one of the kids was going through something, did we make the right choice? Did we screw that up completely? Things of that nature. And to kind of be able to relive a lot of that and to focus on it has been really cool, because it's neat to kind of see where you succeeded, and it's also kind of cool to kind of go back and go like, oh man, I definitely didn't do that right. I would do that differently if I could.
Let's dive a little more into that. I'm interested. How does that affect you? Like, if you could come across something, let's say that you're like, man, probably could have done that better. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, it's like, because it's a life in review in a way. We were talking about that before we got on the podcast. It's like almost like people get on their deathbed and then they sit there and review everything that they did in their lives and whether it was good or bad. And you're almost kind of getting that in real time. Like, how is that?
Yeah, I think it's a little tricky. There's times I was Sienna's coach, basketball coach for a long time, and her and I have pretty similar personalities, in the fact that we're both kind of headstrong a little bit. And there's definitely things that I didn't do well as her coach that I probably would redo now. And I've actually talked to her about it a little bit and been like, hey, I'm sorry I was so hard on you about that, things of that nature. So it's little things like that I think you can kind of go back on it. I think, when you think about it, it's sort of like you go, yeah, I probably could have done that differently. But when you're seeing other people kind of going through it, you can really sort of think about what it was that you did. And I had this conversation, I think, one time with one of the other dads who's got some kids who play sports. And I was like, man, I would have totally done that differently. And I would have been a little bit more maybe empathetic or what the right term was, but
Yeah.
yeah, just little things like that you're kind of like,
Not little things like that, Sean. That is exactly what this group is
right.
completely built for and about, is for somebody to come on there and be like, man, I've got this kid and I'm coaching them. I'm struggling with these parents or this thing that's going on. And Sean comes in there and goes, I have literally been through this exact experience. And here is what I did. And then the coolest part about you, Sean, is you really live our value of, hey man, like we got one rule: share experiences, not advice. And you step back and you just kind of sit back and support, man. And it's like, you're one of the original members that was on here. You've been on here for a long time, over 3 years. And it's because of you. It's because of the foundation that we started with that we're able to keep this thing going. And I use the reference term of, Brene Brown. She has a TED Talk where she talks about vulnerability. I don't know if you've seen that TED Talk before.
I don't think so, but I'll check it out.
I highly encourage you to check it out, man. It's really awesome. And she talks about how she goes into the highest, most elite levels of corporations in the world, and she sees so many egos, and she sees so many people, walking around with their chest puffed out and acting like they're big stuff, blah, 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 and talking behind each other's backs and that kind of stuff going on. And then she goes into these, Navy SEAL, pararescue, NFL, Major League Baseball, club rooms, and she's in the locker rooms with these guys and girls, and is asking them, why are you guys so vulnerable? I go into these corporations and I don't see that, but I go into these, supposed to be most egotistical, supposed to be the most type A, and we see the opposite. And those guys are always going, well, yeah, I mean, if you're not going to be honest and be vulnerable with me, I'm not going to trust you. And that's like her whole talk, is that vulnerability is being honest. Is there a moment that you can remember in WeBUS, or either with yourself or another member, that was like, whoa, that's vulnerability, and that's different than what I've seen in most dad groups or most of my dad's friends that I know?
Yeah, I think there's been definitely some times where some guys have really gotten, into some serious deep conversations with themselves, and you can kind of see it as they're kind of walking through and talking about stuff, that they're processing it as they're talking, right? You can see the kind of light bulbs going off every once in a while. And, I haven't personally really had a situation like that. I've had a couple times where I've come on when things have been going either really good or really bad, and kind of be able to talk about it, just to kind of vibe through it and kind of see if what I'm feeling at the moment is really truly my feelings, or if it's just that emotion kind of taking over, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right. But it's been really cool to kind of see some guys, get real deep and real vulnerable, and just kind of be out there with some changes, and then to see them throughout the, next 6 months, year, whatever it is, see them actually changing because they want to, not because they have to, has been the really coolest thing, I think. Is, you get a lot of guys back on that are talking about how the groups really helped save their lives. But I think in this situation, it's actually true. Like, it's not just a word vomit. It's people actually changing for the better because they see that there's other ways to do things. They kind of take that time and take that pause and really, really focus on it. I think that's been really cool. That's probably been the best situation.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to meet somebody at their worst. And that's what we usually get, is that we get guys that join this group when they're going through something, and one of us reaches out to them and goes, you got to come over, bro. I got a thing that can help you right now. And so it is really cool to take somebody like, you meet this person, they're literally just spilling out their guts, and you just met this person. You don't even know this person. You haven't actually met them. It's through the internet. Yeah. And you're right. And you see them completely turn it around, and change, and how powerful of a relationship is made there between all of us. Just seeing that change in people, how powerful it is. You mentioned talking yourself through it. And that's like one of the things I've talked with a lot of the other guys about on the podcast so far, is like how awkward it was at first to sit there with the phone in front of you and be talking to yourself, knowing you're leaving a message for somebody else. But I think that that's a lot of the benefit, is that you talk yourself through your problems. You don't allow your problems to just get out of control in your head. Would you say that that's true?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things is, it takes a little bit to get used to, talking on the thing. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
when I first joined in, I think it was my wife walked down. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
talking to my guys. She's like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
okay. And she was like, "Whatever."
Cool.
But
Yeah. Right on.
that was one of the things. It's to get used to it. But I think the idea of we always, I think, at least I always, not we, um, tend to, if things are going in my brain, if I don't verbalize them, they usually go one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
take something that's good and you can make it too good. And you can
Yeah.
actually get yourself disappointed because you're not being smart about it. Or the opposite can happen. And you're like, man, I really screwed that up. I'm going to screw this up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you can take it, down a darker path. So
Yeah.
I feel like when you talk through it a little bit, you're able to sort of be a little nicer to yourself
Yeah,
than
it almost kind of helps you find the middle path, is
right.
what I
Yep.
call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're always all searching for. It's just we have friends that kind of tug us this way or tug us that way. And we're like, okay, I guess I'll do that. Have you been through this before? They're like, no, but this is what you got to do. And you're like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So when we think about being dads, at least I think about being a dad, I think about giving my kids what they didn't have, what I didn't have growing up, right? Like I didn't have a mom and a dad that were very there, right? And so mine is pretty easy. But how was your upbringing? What was it like? Do you feel like you had many generational curses to break, or was it kind of like, no, I had a great foundation?
I had a pretty darn good foundation, really. Both my parents were working, so I wasn't. When I was a little kid, I was a latchkey kid, right? So I lived in the city, so I'd take the city bus home or take the school bus home, and I'd walk in. I'd let myself in the house, even in grade school, make my own little snacks and stuff. If I wanted to get some laundry done, I did that when I was younger. So I did a lot of stuff that was kind of independent. I'm an only child, so I have no brothers or sisters, so it was me and them.
Yeah.
But they're always been so supportive of me and really taught me the work ethic. And I would love to be a little more empathetic at times. My mom is definitely super empathetic. I don't feel like I am that much, but I'm more like my dad in that aspect.
Yeah.
But no, they're great parents. They're still together. They've been married for 46 years, I think it is. 56 years now. So yeah, so it's crazy. But they're great, and we had a great upbringing. So yeah, I can't complain about any of that, other than not having somebody to blame stuff on when things broke.
Man, I was just about to say that you could have.
Right.
You really could have. You were a latchkey kid. That would have been
Yeah.
easy to be like, I was a latchkey kid. My parents worked constantly. I had to be by myself. And this is the power that I see behind WeBUS. It's like that normal conversation that you just had with me. If I was a latchkey kid, which I was, like in a sense, I wasn't really like, honestly, if we weren't at school, at practice, we were at work with my mom, helping her do work because It was like, you better get your ass over here and help us all get home early, so we can all eat dinner and we can all go to bed. And so there wasn't much time like that. But I've met people, especially some of my veteran friends who were latchkey kids, and they don't see it the way you did, where they were like, my parents were supportive. I got to ride the city bus home. I got to do my laundry by myself. And you have a lot of I get tos in there. I got to do this stuff. And a lot of people just in that conversation, I hope would take away from like whoa, I can really choose my attitude. I can really choose how I want to feel based off of my past, not that my past has to control me. I'm trying to remember a little ism that Switch says all the time, where he said something like, don't let your past control you, like you control the past or something. And Switch always has the best isms. They're the best.
Oh, yeah.
But man, that right there is the power of WeBUS. And that right there is the power I think that you have, especially Sean, in this group, is the ability to have a normal conversation that you don't think in any way is changing any lives, but you have no idea how important it is that you continue to come on here and just say that stuff and talk about your life and share your experiences. Because for you, it may not feel like I have much to give because I've already been through it, and you're more kind of hanging back and waiting for things to happen in people. And then you hop in, and you're so great in that way. But I would really encourage you to just continue to share what you went through, What were the challenges? What were the highlights? Because, and you just kind of like almost writing your book in WeBUS kind of in a way from beginning to end. Like, man, that's going to be so powerful for so many of our members, dude. Like, that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the little things, right, that you don't think about yourself on a daily basis, but then somebody points out and you're like, oh shit, that is pretty cool, right? That's
Oh my
pretty
God.
awesome.
Yeah. We were just talking about this with Jason and Brian I was saying like, what a powerful thing to take in. Like most of the time you have like a negative thing that is happening in your life. Right. And then, so you come onto WeBUS and you go, I can't believe this is happening to me, you guys. Like, here's what's going on. And then you get all these guys that come in and love you. But we don't think about the impact and the power of all of those other guys that are now having somebody else come on with the same experience that they went through, having the same feelings, if not worse or better or whatever that they went through. But now they get to take that bad experience and use it for good to help somebody else. So now they're taking that negative crap and they're using it as like compost for the soil and they're tilling it in there. And it's like, what a healing thing for a lot of these traumatic experiences, whether, big T or little T, like Dr. Monte likes to say. It's like, it's just cool to see that we can use everything in our lives, whether they be, hey, I was a latchkey kid and I'm choosing to use that as positivity in my life now that I got to experience all these things, or we're choosing it to see negative. I think that the experience that you bring to this group and what we have with WeBUS is just number one, it couldn't be the same without you, Sean. That is for sure, 150%. And number two, it couldn't be the same without the vulnerability that we have in this group. And so I encourage you, brother, keep being vulnerable, keep being yourself, keep bringing all those stories because they're amazing. And I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. You're in an elevator with your best friend and you can tell they're struggling. You want to get them off the struggle bus and onto the WeBUS. You got 10 seconds, man. What do you tell them?
I just tell them to check out a group where a bunch of guys put all of the baggage aside and just speak the truth.
Dude, you guys, I've asked this question in each one of them, and it's been like I could print it on a shirt. We can walk around with it. It's been so good, man. Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you, brother. If anybody would like to get a hold of you, you own a pretty awesome business there in Wisconsin. Would you mind telling us about that business that you own?
Yeah, for sure. I am part owner, a minority owner of a great gym called CrossFit Funky in New Berlin, Wisconsin. So have been a member here for 11 years, a coach for 5, part owner for 1. And yeah, man, we're
getting deeper and deeper into those roots.
They can crawling down the wormhole, right? And we're trying to do the same thing. We're changing lives, physically and mentally, just like we're trying to do with WeBUS. So it's a great place, and I love it. And then I also get to spend a full-time job at a place I love. So it's a double whammy, man. It's all good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we love spreading the community and the family, and a lot of, the dads out there are CrossFitters. So if you guys are ever in Wisconsin, you're looking for a gym, CrossFit Funky is your place. I mean, who doesn't want that t-shirt? That's just like, I want to drop in at your gym just so I could get a CrossFit Funky t-shirt.
It's right there. See it?
There you go, dude. Like, that's what I want right there. Just for that experience alone, it'd be totally worth it. So, all right, man. Thank you so much. Be sure to hang on. Don't hang up when we're done here. But if you guys have anything that you would like to see on the podcast, anybody you would like us to interview, please let us know. We're here for you to share experiences and to help you through the rough seas of life. So get off the struggle bus and get onto the WeBUS.
There you go. All right, buddy.